Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a Bridge to a Better Life series of discussions. I'm your host, Marcia Trajano, and I'm here with my co host, Jussara Korngold. Jussara is the Secretary General of the International Spiritist Council and the former president and current vice president of the United States Spiritist Federation. For the past 30 years, Jussara has been volunteering as a counselor in fraternal conversations in several spiritist institutions. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for joining this program. And today we will discuss mental health, the power of word to reach a balance and a healthy life. But today, program was brought by the International Spiritist Council. This organization has a mission to promote the unification of the Spiritist movement in the world based on the principles established by Allan Kardec. It was founded in 1992 in Madrid, Spain. And if you're interested in learning more about this organization, please visit cei-spiritistcouncil.com. The Psychology and Spirituality program is also sponsored by several other organizations. We want to thank you, AME Brasil, the United States Spiritist Federation, TV Mansão de Caminho, and I take this opportunity to say thank you, Divaldo Franco, for your support for this program, and the International Spiritist Council. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you'd like to check out our other channels, please check us out at www.spiritist.us. And I'm here with Jussara, so I want to say hello, Jussara. Good to
Well,
have you with me.
Marcia, so nice to be back again and to be able to continue our conversation about such important topic that is our better health, right? Ways for a better life. And
Mhm.
I'd like to greet everyone that is with us today, and very happy to have you again with us for this journey, for this episode that we are going to be talking about a health lifestyle, the one that is going to make us as human beings feel better and help us in this process of self improvement.
Absolutely. Thank you. I want to just say that we're wrapping up our discussions that was first discussed in our prior episode, which was we talked about how balance leads to a healthy life. And specifically, we discussed the power of words, right? Which means what you do talk about, what you say with your words do matter. Those words matter for your health. But if you're interested in knowing more about this subject, we highly recommend several books written by Joanna de Angelis with a collaboration by Divaldo Franco. They are Self Discovery, Empty Lives, Times of Health and Consciousness, and Life Challenges and Solutions. So, Josada, I wanted to go
You
ahead. Go
and
ahead.
just to remind everyone, most of those books can be found at lealpublisher.org. So Leal, Leal publisher.org. So go there and check because you have an extremely important and great selection of books, not only by Joanna de Angelis, but by others as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. Appreciate it. And I would just say, right, when we talk about power words, and I wanted to bring a different topic, a little bit of a nuance here, Josada. And as you may be aware, and I'm talking generally, right, generally speaking here, we talk. about this notion of moral compass, this notion of how our ethical and moral values lead us to our true north. And many people call this righteousness. So when we talk about that idea, we also, this is the point counterpoint, right, Jussara? People also talk about what righteousness, Marcia, I do not want to talk about righteousness because people really don't seem to be very interested in that discussion about values, about morality or righteousness. So I challenge you, Jussara, let's talk about it right now as we continue to talk about mental health, about balance. How about that?
Yeah, good start, Marcia. Um, Righteousness. The relation that we can think about our way of acting, of having ourselves a moral compass, has
Mhm.
everything to do with what comes from our conscience, the way our, let's say, way of manifesting, of behaving is going to impact our mental health in the sense that every time I go against what my nature, imagining that we are a spark of light,
Mhm.
an atom of light resulting of the love of a creator, when I go against this nature, you know, the law of God is written in our conscience.
Yeah.
Subconsciously speaking, I am storing all the negativity that somehow is going to impact later on, and sometimes not that late after our behavior, our action, and it's going to weigh on us. This is the shadow that we talks about. So
Mhm.
something that I carry in my mind, in my myself, my being, that prevents me to pursue even happiness. Sometimes we sabotage ourselves, we
Mhm. Mhm.
sabotage our lives
Mhm.
because deep inside our mind, not being righteous in relation
Mhm.
to what we already know should be a good behavior is going to weigh on me, and in this manner I will think I do not deserve, I do not
Yes.
deserve happiness, I
Yeah.
do not deserve peace of mind. And this is when you really need to go to therapy, to trying to dig out
Yes. Mhm.
all um, those thoughts, the actions that we did that somehow could
Mhm.
seem unimportant at the
Mhm.
moment, but then we will see how the aftermath of all this. So righteousness, when we talk about righteousness here,
Mhm.
not to talk in the religious sense nowadays in our society, and looking back, in more primitive times, middle age, or even
Mhm.
a bit after that, we will see how much we have grown as human beings, and how
Mhm.
much now we are paying attention more to equality,
Yes.
to the freedom of that everyone has, always remembering to respect the freedom and the thoughts of others as well. So
Mhm.
we already have a notion in terms of human laws nowadays that are much better than before, uh,
Mhm.
showing much more equality. There is a long
Mhm.
way for us to go, but it still leads
Mhm.
us this way. So it's everything is calling us to this righteousness, and every
Yeah.
time I go against that, I go again. I will not feel good. There will be an impact in me and myself. And here, when we are talking about a healthy life, we are not talking only, as we mentioned in the
Mhm.
previous episode, about uh, the physical repercussion that we can have
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
based on our thoughts and our actions. And this is something that we have to always to stress, not to only thinking about the physiology of our physical body, but
Mhm.
thinking about our inner balance, serenity, emotional equilibrium, uh,
Mhm.
cultural and religious aspirations, everything that puts us in this way or
Mhm.
calls us, although
Mhm.
it exists many times, to
Yeah.
a path of righteousness.
Hmm. And I think it's very interesting when we talk about it, and we actually talked about this previously. The notion that uh, we we are not perfect, but we are perfectible, which tells us that we are in the middle ground, right, Jussara? We are work in progress. We're not there, but we're getting there. So when we talk about the definitions, perhaps of righteousness, it's important that we can really talk about how to apply that sense, right? Perhaps. The idea of cultivating a sense of confidence, a sense of joy whenever we are around our community members, right? Our family members, our peers, our co-workers. So when we do that, it's an example of promoting that sense of righteousness versus guilt, as you mentioned before. And another aspect of it, which we mentioned last week, was the idea of just saying good morning, right? Of smiling to that person, and by that sense of radiating for I love the term which is fictional, right? It's a metaphor, but how we can have the perfume of something so good that people want to be around you. We radiate being nice, being good, being pleasant. We radiate a sense of hopefulness in this time when hope is no longer commodity, right? It's so important for us to encourage peace and encourage well-being. And like we're doing today, using this tete-a-tete, virtual that is, but we're still doing this, right, Josiah? We are using opportunities for conversations as catalyst for ideas. And I go back to a quote that I thought was good to who brought to us, and it's not. It's actually our own Eleanor Roosevelt that mentioned great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and little minds discuss people. So we talked a lot about the fact that it's easy to speak ill about the others, to judge the other, and that puts us, according to Eleanor Roosevelt, as somebody who really has a lot to grow in this work in progress status, right? But just to finalize that is we were told that we really need to admonish to remove from us any type of criticism, any type of destructive words for the others, because they will make us sick. Right? There is that very close correlation between being angry, being aggressive, using words to attack in our own health and our own physiology, as you mentioned. But I wanted to give you another curveball. Are you ready for me? I'd like to perhaps talk about yet another complementary concept to this discussion, Jussara. With if you go back to what Emmanuel said, Emmanuel brought the concept of health as the perfect balance of the mind, right? So we talked about the power of your words and how balance will lead us to a healthy life. He mentioned that the health in itself is that perfect balance of the mind. Can we talk a little bit about that, Jussara? What do you think?
Yes, and it leads us to really ponder about this quote.
Mhm,
The concept of health being the perfect balance of the mind, because
mhm,
I'm sure we all know people that may be suffering from a certain illness, for an illness, and they have a very positive attitude in relation to
mhm, mhm,
others that maybe don't have anything that serious, uh,
mhm.
or in comparison to other things, but they have a very negative attitude,
That's
and
right.
uh, they are always complaining, and others that don't even have anything and are suffer from hypochondria, right?
Yes, yes.
To say, "Oh, poor me, there is something bad with me." So, Joanna de Angelis has one concept that she talks about, that it says that it's possible for us to experience fullness despite any kind of organic difficulty.
Yeah.
And very often we can see this on our day-to-day lives. So the uh, our inner state, the way we understand and accept things, it's going
Mhm,
to make a huge difference in relation to our well-being. And so this is preferable to have a balanced mind, because as we've been talking from the actually several weeks, we mentioned here and there, but more specifically the last episode where we talked about the importance of our thoughts.
mhm.
My life may be good in every aspect, but I don't see it this way. I'm always
Correct.
coveting what
Mhm,
others have, and I don't. So I make my life myself miserable, because until I achieve what others have, I'm not going to feel fulfilled. And then I create a hell in myself when we
mhm,
give ourselves to
mhm,
you to envious thoughts,
mhm,
to jealousy without reason,
mhm,
and to all of those negative traits that we can find in our personality that
mhm,
make us ill, literally ill. It's going
mhm,
to impact the way I relax, the way I sleep, the way I present myself. I'm always going to be that person that people perhaps are not going to be feel that happy, and maybe it's not because of something I say, but because I come with that energy, that
mhm,
shadow that we have
mhm.
to pay attention to. So whether we are visited or not by more serious illnesses, we our attitude should be of understanding, not making it become a heavier burden for ourselves and for others. And I think that this is what Emmanuel tries to say here in this
Mhm,
concept, and one thing that we should try to achieve. And when
mhm,
we think about this righteousness, right,
mhm,
is not to question, what life brings us, and knowing that every action it's only natural that we think like this, that for every action there will always be a reaction. So now I have to own my my actions,
yeah.
to think about what am I going to be sending out in the world, because it's going to come back to me. It's the boomerang effect.
Yes.
I cannot plant peaches and expect to grab oranges there, right?
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm,
it's and I think this makes all the difference when and it's always such valuable lessons, right? When you meet someone that is going through, difficult things in relation to their health, but they have this positive attitude,
Yes,
a
yes.
genuine positive attitude. I think it teaches us so much, even to to start pondering about ourselves and how good we have, and we are not valuing that. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually can give the story just to relate in what you say, the acceptance to, let's say, an illness, especially if it's a terminal illness, something that plagues you, not transactionally, as I call it in my mind's eye, right? But it is that you have to grasp your failing sense of power and health and well-being by the diminishing vitality, if you will. And I know Jussara is someone who first time this person had cancer, and I say first because she was healed and then it came back several years later. But the first time, it is very much like what you're describing here. This person so angry with the world, angry with God, angry. There's just this sense of how could this be happening to me? And it was very hard to be around this person because you could see the more she needed to heal, the more the sicker she became just by how she experienced that opportunity. Long story short, I don't know how many years later, she is in remission and it comes back and it's devastating, much worse. And she was given months to live. Her attitude was so different this time. And I'm not aware of what were the triggers that changed her mind or her attitude, but she accepted that. And she took the time to really be well despite the disease. And guess what? This has been years later. She's still with us today. So it's interesting when we see those stories to see how impactful what you're saying is, right? We can become very, very accepting and help heal ourselves or not. It's up to us.
Yeah, there are so many studies now,
Mhm.
for a while already being conducted at Harvard University, Duke University. I know some from Dr. Harold Koenig that has been
Mhm.
participating in the Spiritist Medical Association here in the US.
Mhm.
Nationally as well, talking exactly about this, how this more spiritual way of being makes a
Mhm.
huge difference in terms of our physical health, our mental
Mhm.
health, our acceptance, and therefore being much more responsive to any kind of treatment. Because here, Marcia, we are also
Mhm.
talking about hygiene, right?
Yes,
When we
yes,
talk about hygiene, normally we will think, okay, I'm going to take a shower, okay, okay, to take a shower. But we are talking about mental, spiritual
correct.
hygiene.
Mhm.
So it's really reading ourselves. Remember that we often talk about, what we don't see, but it doesn't mean that that is not there.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, negative thoughts that those vaporous energy that it's what we grasp when we
Mhm.
go into the world, and actually worse yet with our attitude. So our goal here when we are talking about uh, this mental improvement, right? Uh,
Mhm.
in terms of psychology and spirituality, we are talking about this mental hygiene of
Mhm.
course, the hygiene of the physical body is as important as, because it prevents us from illnesses, and actually lead us to feel more relaxed and
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
uh, you know, even clear our minds. Sometimes we get off the shower and say, oh my god, I feel lighter, right? It's because we gave ourselves that time and that energy that our fluidic body, so to say, expands. And it's very much like when we are in the state of prayer or meditation. Everything that we can um, put ourselves to preserve peace, right? And one of the things definitely is acting in righteousness, right? When
Mhm.
no, sometimes I say we are going through struggles in life, and but the best thing is when you go to sleep and you put your head on pillow and
Mhm.
say, I'm free of guilt. I did everything I could in order, let's say, to solve this situation. And
Yeah.
I continue doing that. So I can sleep in peace because,
Mhm.
okay, we are being active. We are trying to do something, right? And I think it's this behavioral therapy is
Yeah.
what we're talking about here, to
Mhm.
rid ourselves from any kind of disturbances and getting into this, new pattern of behavior, is starting with selecting thoughts, selecting actions, and understanding that we are the ones that are going to be responsible from what
Mhm.
we're accepting from the world. The world may be giving me bad things, but I don't need to accept that. I will look for the good things, and I will focus on that.
Yeah, love it. I love that concept, right? We are responsible for what we decide to receive from the world. It's simple as that. But if you think about that notion, right? If you recap about all those things that you said, from how to induce herself to be in a better state of health, and you mentioned our hygiene, mental and physical, the state of meditation or reflection or prayer, or the preservation, the active preservation of peace. But we cannot talk about all this without talking about love, can we? So this is my third curveball to you, Jussara. Can we shift our discussion about true health and balance, and the power that we bring when we are committed to a certain type of lifestyle, right? The commitment to be peaceful, to have that a life that we are paying attention, not only what goes into our mouth, but what gets out of our mouth, and how we handle those external aspects of our lives. Can we talk a little bit about love, and maybe about love therapy? How about that?
Yes, this is something that Joanna de Angelis mentions a lot about, the love therapy, is starting with us, self love.
Hmm.
We have talked a little bit about this already, but it is something that we are going to keep on repeating because we
Hmm.
need to hear that. We
Hmm.
have to learn to love ourselves, to accept us as we are, uh,
Hmm.
and not comparing. Uh,
Hmm.
there is no point in us comparing ourselves to others. Each one of us has a different story, uh,
Hmm.
different spiritual age, right? And the way we get advantage or not from our lives, our possibilities. But the thing is, if I don't value myself, if I don't start to accept uh,
Hmm.
that yes, we have our flaws, but
Hmm.
yes, I have the ability to overcome them. And this is where we have to go, because otherwise there is no motivation. I will
Mhm.
say, well, I'm not worthy of the effort. This is really what we are going to think about ourselves. This is getting into a self-destructive mode.
Mhm.
So I love myself. This is what we have to tell us daily. We are
Mhm.
light. We are peace. Like repeating those kind of mantra, right?
Mhm.
It's going to help us in the sense of accepting, acceptance, self acceptance. And once we do that, because are going to be looking more into our possibilities, into the flaws that we have in this, so many failures that we will have. But again, as we pick up ourselves back again and start over in a different way for our brothers and sisters as well, because
Mhm.
then I will be more, we'll have more compassion.
Mhm.
And maybe, this love therapy has isn't we can talk about the first stage of love, that is
Mhm.
compassion, right? I
Mhm.
have compassion in relation to others. I know how hard it is for me to change myself, so I should understand how it is difficult for others to do the same, and not
Mhm.
expecting them to do the same. And one thing that we were talking about, you know,
Mhm.
criticism, all of that, is, not being that much judgmental. And this is on one topic that I really think we have to talk further. Uh,
Mhm.
Perhaps one episode only dedicated to that, in not being
Mhm.
judgmental, even in relation to ourselves. So this point that Joanna de Angelis makes about uh, the therapy of love, helping us to look at our reality. And now I look at myself as, a child of God, as,
Yeah.
the result of millennia, right? And
Mhm.
mortal is spirit, and
Mhm.
knowing that I will have opportunities to pick up myself and start in a new road, and try to do better, and going into this pathway of righteousness. So I think it's a very important point for us to
Mhm.
meditate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting, right? We don't comprehend what love is truly, but we don't comprehend knowing the other truly. We don't comprehend Jesus' teachings, right? That's truly revolutionary, loving your enemy. Those are all concepts of love. But we fail miserably. We can even start to understand those three topics. But when we go into the self love, love yourself through love therapy, we fail miserably. And I agree with you. There's so much that we can discuss here to include ideas of what is compassion, self compassion, the idea that we fail, but failure, right? Failure is an aspect of achieving something else. So we must allow ourselves to, in failing, focusing on the lesson, not the criticism. And this is really important for all of us who are perfectionists are there. It's okay to fail, and it's okay to look at failure as an opportunity to get better. So, anyways, love everything you said. I really, really appreciate it. But I wanted to read something. Is it okay?
Yeah,
Jussara, I think we have a few more minutes. I
yeah,
wanted to go to Times of Health and Consciousness book and I'm just going to read if it's okay, and we can talk about it. So, I believe it's chapter 5, page 28 and 29, Joanna de Angelis in a book writes the following. So, let me go. There's a story about a sage who was walking with his disciples on a winding pathway when they came upon a godly man on his knees praying to God to help him pull his cart out of the quagmire. Everyone felt sorry for this devotee, but they continued on their way. They did not stop. After they had gone a few more miles, they came upon another man whose cart had also gotten stuck in a quagmire. This one uh, was complaining angrily, but was actually trying as hard as he could to free the cart. Moved, the sage asked his disciple to help the man. They all got together, they worked together, they pulled the cart out right away, and the traveler thanked them and continued happily on his way. The surprised disciples asked their master, "Hmm, the first man was praying and he was pious, yet we didn't help him. The second, he was rebellious and was even swearing, yet he received a help. How come?" The one who was praying was waiting for God to come and do the job that he himself should have done. The other, though desperate out of ignorance, was actually doing something. He just needed some and deserved some assistance. So I read this, Jussara, because I think we can talk a lot about this little story in the need to look at yourself and find the humility even to know, oh, I cannot do it. I can be angry, and we talk a lot about not being angry in this and that, but I can be angry out of my own ignorance. But being able to understand that I have to do something, to commit to doing something, will make us actually receive some assistance just like this. What are your thoughts? Give me your thoughts on this little story here.
Oh my God, I think this story is so beautiful because I remember that teaching from Jesus that say, "Help yourselves, and heaven will help you." Right? Is exactly
Yeah.
that. We are supposed to do the work. Uh,
Mhm.
the image that comes to me is also about the cocoon, right? I mean, there we have the caterpillar going through a process of transformation. If we
Yeah.
go there and try to break them before its time,
Mhm.
the butterfly is going to perish. So we have to go through this process. Remember one of the episodes we were talking about Socrates' mother, right? That he used the word. I think it was in another. Live that I was doing about the this being the utilizing the meiotic of
Mhm.
solstice, and this word means going into labor
Mhm.
because he used this word because his mother was a midwife, and so going into labor here, so doing this work like this man was doing. I mean, regardless, and what I think is beautiful about the story is that
Mhm.
regardless of our beliefs. Uh,
Mhm.
because it's not about the external things, right? How we position ourselves and how we believe in ourselves, and we struggle to become victoriously in any circumstances that we have. And I think
Mhm.
that's a beautiful lesson. I was thinking there is another children's story that I read once, and there's and that it goes along the way with this one from by Joanna de Angelis, that there was this man that lived in a village, and it started raining really bad, and they were having problems with flood. He moved up it to the roof of his house, and he started praying to God, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden there is a little boat that comes along and say, come, I'm here to save you. And he said, no, no, I'm waiting for God. And doesn't take the boat. And then later on comes an helicopter and come on, throws a ladder and come and we are going to save you. And no, 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 I'm here waiting for God. And all of a sudden, as we can imagine the result, he dies and goes to whatever place he goes, and then
Yeah.
he going to complain to God. How come I was praying? I asked for your help, and you didn't come to help me. And he said, I sent a boat, I sent an helicopter, and you didn't. What else did you want me to to do? Right. So sometimes we are receiving all this help, and we hope that this program that we are of discussions that we are doing about psychology and spirituality, a bridge to a better life, can be this kind of help to any of you that are listening as well. That in our comments that comes out of our hearts, and you can find some words that can give you more hope and believing more in yourselves, and having really the will to go continue in this journey, because life is so beautiful, and it's an opportunity that we have. So let's live what life has to give to us, and always look for the sweet flavor of life, instead of looking for bitterness, not only in ourselves but in others.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for wrapping up with the story. And um, before we say goodbye, I just want to say, um, always understand that as a process of transformation that we are all on, right? Just like that butterfly that had to go through several phases, several stages. And when you say that, Jussara, about the cocoon, right? Can you imagine if every time I think about it, I imagine myself just completely tied up in that cocoon, and the tremendous effort that it takes to move away, to overcome that quote unquote prison. And in doing that, you actually learning to be ready to fly. So let us think about, we talked about illness, we talked about all of those things that may take your sense of self, may take your sense of balance, equilibrium, and health. And let's look, what can I do to accept, because that may be simply your cocoon, that you have to go through that process of liberation to become the beautiful butterfly, but also understand that it starts with here, and I'm pointing to my heart, and here. So wishes for really an opportunity for you to find your path for your own balance, for your own mental and physical health. And we really look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you so very much.
Yes, and one thing for us to think about: what is the motivation for the future to be butterfly, to go through all this work? So what is our motivation?
Absolutely. Thank you
Right?
so much.
Immortal spirits,
Mhm.
and the search for this spirituality, this connection, is what can really lead us to find this motivation. And regardless if life is squeezing us at this moment, I'm going to spread my wings and fly.
Awesome. Beautiful. Bye. See you next time.
I see you.